Today we'll learn how to create an array and use it as a parameter to a method. And the example that we're going to use is for the class min array, and we're going to create an array and we're going to find the minimum value in the array. So we're going to create a separate method, find min, and we're going to do some processing, and we'll write a code to find the minimum in an array and pass it back and print that result. So the first step that you want to do in here is take a look at your main, and I have given you to do things in line comments. Those are the things that you need to read, understand, follow, and write your code. So the first thing that we need to do is create and initialize the array with values. So let's create an array. My array is going to be type int, and the name of the array is going to be scores, and I'm going to initialize it with some values. Let's have 10 values. So our next step is invoke the find min method. So I've given you this already. We're going to invoke the method find min, and when we talk about find min method, we're going to find the minimum in the array, and we need parameter in here, and the parameter is going to be our array names. So I'm going to call it as, so the parameter is going to be our array that we created in here, that's going to be scores. So find the minimum in array scores, and whatever the value is, store it in the variable min. The next step is print the index of smallest value. Let's come back to this later. Let's focus on our method here, find min. We invoke the method find min with scores as an array. Let's jump to our method in here, find min method. So the method find min is using array as a parameter to find the smallest number and then return that number. What's the parameter going to be in here? Is going to be, we're using array as a parameter, and the name of the parameter is going to be my array. Return value, it returns the index, min index. So we have a header statement in here, public static int find min is the method name, and then the parameter is going to be my array. Since my array is integer, so I'm going to say my array You can also do it this way, it doesn't matter. Whichever way you choose to do is fine. Now in order to do processing and find minimum, I've given you the 4 steps. Let's read the first step. Assume the first value in the array is minimum. Assign the first element in array to minimum variable. So that means we need a variable called min. So that's going to be int, and we are saying that my array, the first value, that's index 0, is the minimum. We are just assuming it. Now the next is assume the first index in array has the minimum value. Initialize 0 to the minimum index variable. So this is where we are talking about our index, and this is the minimum value. So index is again going to be int, and we're going to say as minimum index, that's min index, equals to 0. That means the first index is 0. Now iterate through the array to find the minimum in the array. So iterate means I've got to use for loop, and I'm going to use I, of course. We'll start with I equals to 0, and I is less than my array length, and we will increment. Now in here we want to find the minimum in the array, so we definitely want to use an if statement. So now let's take a look at our if condition in here. So we're going to say that if we assume that the minimum value is the first index, That's minimum in here. So let's take a look. We have done this finding the minimum before, so it's going to be pretty simple. If min is greater than my array I, then you're saying the value of min is now going to be my new index. That's it. So now we also want to tell what is our minimum index. So we got the minimum value. We also need to say our minimum index is equal to whatever that I is. And the last step you're saying is return the minimum index. So when we talk about the return the minimum index, keep in mind this is not returning the minimum value. This is returning the index. So the final step that we want to return is our min index. That's our minimum index. Now let's compile it. My array, spelling mistake. Okay, now our find min method works correctly. Now we have a minimum value, we have a minimum index. Now let's go ahead and print those. So let's come back to our main method and print the index of the smallest value. Remember, we need to print the index. So I'm going to say system.out.println, and we're going to print the minimum index. And our minimum index is going to be in our min variable. And then we need to print the smallest value. So smallest value means we have to print the array. Our array in here is scores, and we're going to say scores, and then our minimum value is in that index min. So let's compile it, let's run it, and our minimum index is 8, and minimum, oh sorry, we need to fix that in here. This is value. So let's compile it and let's run it. Now let's take a look at our output. It says minimum index is 8 and the minimum value in the array is 1. So minimum value is 1, and it does say it's at index 8. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's correct. So let's take a look at a quick review. This is our main method. We are creating the array with 10 values, and we need to find the minimum in the array. We're going to create a method find min, and then we're going to use the array as a parameter to that method. So in here we are invoking the method because we want to know the minimum in the array. So we are invoking the method find min, and we are using array as a parameter, that scores, and whatever the value is coming in after the processing of this call, it's going to be saved in min variable. Now when this method is invoked, let's jump to our find min method in here. Now when we talk about find min, this is our method that's type int. It has a parameter, and the parameter is array. So in our find min method, we are passing array as a parameter. So now we are assuming that our minimum value is at index 0. That means the first value of the array is your minimum value. We are assuming that. And since it's the first value is the minimum value, that means the index is 0. That's the minimum index. Now we're going to iterate through to find the minimum in the array, and then we are returning the minimum index. So once we process this method, we get the value for min index. It goes back to this place where it's called. So now min index, that's 8, is going to be the value in here. So min value is going to be 8. So now it's saying printing the smallest value, smallest index, sorry. Now it's going to say print the smallest index. So min is the index that we got from here, and then the minimum value is going to be from the array and this index. So it's going to be scores min. So this is how we use array as a parameter.